Very pleasant good morning to everyone. I want to welcome members of the press who have responded to our request to be here. We certainly appreciate it. I also want to say a very pleasant good morning to listening audience. We are here to have a press conference of cabinet ministers. I want to apologize for the absence of the Honorable Attorney General, who is away on government duty. All the others of us are here: the Honorable Patrice Nisbet, the Honorable Richard Skerritt, our Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Earl Assey-Martin, the Honorable Glenn Ghost-Philip, the Honorable Nigel Carty, and myself. And we'll begin with a brief statement by the Honorable Earl Assey-Martin, our Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Marcella Liburd. Good morning to all, and welcome to today's press conference or press briefing. In January of this year, my cabinet colleagues and I announced that from that time forward, we would take it upon ourselves to address the media on a regular basis. This we felt was essential in order for you to have a full understanding of our priorities, our accomplishments, and most of all, the cohesiveness and focus with which we as a cabinet function. Today, each of my cabinet colleagues will make an opening statement, after which we will entertain questions. The briefing itself will be moderated by my colleague, the Honorable Marcella Liburd. As we all know, voters in their wisdom bestowed upon the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party 64% of the popular vote in the 2010 elections. Not only was this a clear mandate, but is a mandate that we have handled with gratitude and respect and used to advance and protect the best interests of this nation. As a result, crime has fallen 53%. St. Kitts Nevis has gone from a fiscal deficit to a fiscal surplus. Government employees here, unlike their counterparts in other islands, have never ever had to go without pay or receive their salaries late. Major investment projects are moving forward here. Despite the world crisis, our debt to GDP, almost 200% 1 year ago, is 100% now. The lands used to reduce our debt are now owned by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Kitts Nevis Angular National Bank. Not a regional bank, not an international bank, but the St. Kitts Nevis Angular National Bank, our bank. In other words, they are still owned by the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Passenger arrivals in the Federation continue upward, and cruise passengers recently placed St. Kitts and Nevis ahead of every other regional destination, except one, in terms of traveler satisfaction. Cruise traveler spending is down regionally, but in St. Kitts, the Federation has attracted more foreign direct investment than any other CARICOM country, and we export more than any OECS country, including Barbados. This tiny country has clearly been hitting above its weight. And my cabinet colleagues and I, under the sound leadership of the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, have clearly been delivering. Ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister Douglas enjoys the support of a majority of the members of the St. Kitts Nevis Parliament. And this gives him both the practical ability as well as the constitutional and moral authority to move forward with his cabinet legislative agenda. The Honorable Marcella Liburd, the Honorable Glenn Philip, the Honorable Jason Hamilton, the Honorable Patrice Nisbet, the Honorable Nigel Carty, the Honorable Ricky Skerritt, and Prime Minister Dr. Denzil Douglas, and I hold the Constitution of our nation sacred. And with this as our guide, we move forward, confident in our status as the majority in the National Assembly of St. Kitts and Nevis, and confident in and loyal to the government and people that we serve, and the government of which we are part of. Although our country's constitution does not impose a clear deadline by which the motion of no confidence must be heard, we are all strongly of the view that Parliament should move to debate this measure. At this time, however, my colleagues will make their opening statements as we prepare for the upcoming debate on the 2013 budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the Honorable Earl Assie Martin, for that opening statement, and we'll move right into our various ministers of government getting their 3 to 4 minutes in updating us in what's happening within the various ministries. And we'll begin with the Honorable Patrice Nisbet.
Good morning. Thank you very much, the Honorable Marcella Livered. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Homeland Security, Labor, Justice and Legal Affairs continues to undertake its core mandate in support of the government's policy imperatives intended to foster holistic national development with an emphasis on the empowerment of citizens, nationals of the Federation. The various departments of the ministry therefore continue to focus on implementation of specific initiatives. Labor Department. The ongoing changes in the national, regional and international community have sharpened our focus on promoting an industrial environment which will better position the Federation to address several of the challenges which may impact our socio-economic development. In that regard, the department is currently working with the International Labour Organization in collaboration with support from our tripartite constituents to finalize a comprehensive labour code for the Federation. When completed, the code will reflect more poignantly the specific issues affecting employment in an evolving national economy. The government has expressed its commitment to providing social justice for all, with an emphasis on advancing opportunities for our women folk who continue to contribute to economic development through their employment at our industrial estates. I am happy to advise that the ministry has made some progress to actualizing government's commitment to providing for such employees payment of gratuity for long and dedicated service to the enclave industries which continue, notwithstanding the current economic challenges, to provide jobs for our people and income for our national economy. We will, over the coming weeks, further engage all stakeholders as we bring to fruition this very important policy initiative, which is consistent with government thrust to empowering the citizens of the Federation. Government recognizes that a healthy workforce is critical to increase productivity, and we have been proactive in promoting this as an important policy objective. This has resulted in the recently launched of a national workplace policy on HIV and AIDS and non-communicable diseases. Our success in this area benefited from collaboration with the ILO, the local Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the Trades and Labor Union, Ministry of Health, Community Development and Social Services, Culture and Gender Affairs. The policy focuses on creating maintenance of healthy and safe work environments, devoid of stigma, discrimination, and respect for the rights and dignity of all employees, regardless of their state of health. Decisions to drive the Federation's development process must be derived from consistent, reliable data. The absence of such data has been identified as a gap, and the department has taken steps to address this. Work has been recently completed on the installation of a labor management information system designed to furnish data required by the various agencies to inform planning. The Labor Department, in acknowledging its essential role, has embarked upon a comprehensive exercise to embrace capacity of its staff to better enable them to respond to the myriad of challenges being experienced by both employees and employers. In foreign affairs, given the constant changes in the geopolitics, the interplay between such and the new trading environment, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis is intent on forging a dynamic foreign policy, which is cognizant of our status as a small developing nation with highly vulnerability indices. In that regard, The ministry is currently preparing a document which will articulate the Federation's foreign policy, taking into consideration our national and regional international commitments and obligations. The intent is to ensure that citizens, nationals are aware of the issues, several of which impact our daily lives. In due course, the salient matters will be brought to the attention of the general public. Lastly, Homeland Security. Government is committed to safeguarding the safety and security of all nationals, citizens, residents, and visitors. Homeland Security is an essential component of the overall safety and security architecture of the Federation. The Ministry continues, therefore, to place tremendous emphasis on working with the security agencies to improve border security, ensuring the integrity of our travel documents and adherence to our immigration laws. Several challenges, among them ensuring the presence of an appropriate legislative and administrative framework. The requisite human and financial resources continue to limit our capacity to be more proactive. We are, however, confident that success can be achieved through deliberate planning underpinned by consistent monitoring and evaluation. In a nutshell, that's some of the things that are happening in the ministry.
Thank you, the Honorable Patrice Nisbet. I hope you stayed within your time. It seemed that you went over a little bit, but we'll forgive you. We'll now move right on to the Honorable Glenn Phillip, who will have his 4 minutes.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Marcel Liebert, members of the press, members of the listening and viewing public. Good morning. First, let me say 4 minutes doesn't really give me enough time to highlight what the Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Sports, Telecommunication, Information Technology, and Posts, what we're doing. But I will truncate my message a bit, and I'll move into technology. Allow me to share an update on the Education Network, or the EduNet. This particular project is especially important to the Ministry of Information Technology. First, let me say it's designed and submitted by the National NTRC as a project for funding and also the Universal Service Fund. But at the very core, the EduNet is a high-speed fiber network that connects all public secondary schools in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, allowing for access to up to 45 megs of internet connectivity. It is, the EduNet really facilitates this network. So it's important to the IT department and to the staff and students of the Federation of all the secondary schools. This wireless component of the EduNet provides seamless connectivity for the existing and future laptops and other digital devices for the accessing of various network resources, including internet, web conferencing, cloud-based collaboration, and education management tools, all in a secure and managed environment. Of major importance, really, is the web conferencing capability of the EduNet. It is this function that will allow teachers from, for example, Virtuals High School to deliver interactive classes to students maybe in the Bastia High School or even Gingerland Secondary High School. The dream of the team teaching and master teacher lesson sharing is now a reality through the power of the EduNet. And without going into further details, let me summarize by saying the launch is expected to be coordinated by the NTRC and provide insights into the ethos of the EduNet and the immediate functionality to be provided and the possible services that will support. A live demonstration of the web conferencing capability will be a vital component of the Go Live. And we are thinking of going live just after the Easter vacation. So after the Easter vacation, the students of all secondary high schools in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis will have access to this internet, to the education network. Also, at this time, there's collaboration between the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Technology as it regards to distributing of laptops to our teachers, all the teachers in the secondary school, or those teachers who have not received their laptops as yet. Also, we are now procuring laptops for those students who are in grade 6 at this present time, when they matriculate to the secondary schools in September, their laptops will be awaiting them. The other thing that I would like to speak on briefly is the PEP program. To date, the PEP program has enrolled over 974 persons, and in the fields of banking, agriculture, construction, entrepreneurship, hospitality, etc. And the difference between the laptop program and the YES program is that the PEP program and the YES program is that it's more holistic approach to training of our young people. I would like to add also that a special certificate of vocational qualification is also attached to this program, so that a person who enroll here in St. Kitts and successfully complete the PEP program can be a part of any program within the Caribbean of similar nature. I'd also like to speak about upcoming events. The Silver Jubilee Stadium, the track is completed, except for some finishes that we have to do in terms of marking some of the starting points, which will commence today. As a matter of fact, we had a slight setback simply because of some of the persons who were designated from the company, Mondo, who was supposed to be here earlier this week, but was basically snowed in. They'll be arriving in St. Kitts today, and we're working through the period to ensure that the high school championships will be completed, which will start, I think, is on Friday of this week. So basically, in a nutshell, the ministry continues to work and continues to do the work of the people, and we will continue to bring forth our message from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you, the Honorable Glenn Phillip. And we move right into the Honorable Nigel Carty to give his input as to what's happening within his ministry.
Thank you very much, Minister Marcelo Liebert, chairperson of this morning's press conference, Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Earl Asim Martin, other cabinet colleagues, members of the press who are here, members of the listening and viewing audience. Good morning to all of you, and I really want to give you my own word of welcome to this very important press conference, which is really designed to demonstrate that this government continues to function and meet the needs of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And to say that my own observation is that so much has happened in the last month or two. Government's functioning, in my view, has improved tremendously in the last couple of months. And perhaps I should start with the new part of the ministry, which I now hold, which deals with agriculture, marine resources, cooperatives. And I think members of the public are aware that one of the first things I did on assuming responsibility for the subject of agriculture was to conduct a tour to the various installations, farms throughout the Federation, in fact, St. Kitts, to get firsthand what were the real concerns of farmers and other persons working with or connected in some way to agriculture. And one of the issues which came to the fore very quickly and very strongly was the issue of support for young farmers, small farmers, who thought that they needed support with respect to land preparation and the provision of inputs such as seeds and other kinds of things which would facilitate their farming practices. And immediately on returning to the office, we were able to put together a program of support for the small farmers. We're proud to report today that we have helped over 15 to 20 farmers, and we are appealing to other small farmers throughout the country who need the support, small farmers, mark you, who need the support with respect to land preparation and inputs such as seeds and seedlings. We'd want them to make the requisite application to the Ministry of Agriculture so that they could be supported in this way. There is also ongoing land allocation to farmers who had been on a list of persons who had been requiring or requesting land for some time. We are moving full speed ahead with respect to the allocation of land for farmers, and at the same time seeking allocation of land from the Ministry of Lands to the Ministry of Agriculture for the purpose of agriculture. That is moving ahead very nicely, and we're proud of what we have done in the recent past to facilitate the farmers. Another important activity was the putting on of the Agricultural Forum about 3 weeks ago, where we were able to sit in a forum with farmers, members of the private sector, NGOs, civil society, other business persons, and discuss the challenges facing agriculture. Of course, there was an outcry for a new public market, and the ministry has taken this on board as part of the policy going forward, and so the ministry will make the appropriate submission for the process for the commencement of the design and construction of a new public market. And we think that the people of St. Kitts deserve a space in which they can sell their fruits and vegetables, but also a place where local business people selling their little clothes and so forth can be. And I think that if you were to create a nice, clean space for people to do that kind of activity, we will see a lot more small businesses being supported in this way. Farmers spoke of the need for better linkage between tourism and agriculture, with hotels and restaurants being involved, the penetration of overseas markets for the sale of their hot peppers, their vegetables generally, and we are seeking ways and means of building upon the successes which we have had in the past with respect to the penetration of overseas market. Irrigation continues to be a problem, and so well drilling and finding other ways and means of providing water so that we can have more produce, we can have all year round production of agricultural produce in St. Kitts. Of course, there is the ongoing problem with monkeys and so forth, and we are seeking ways and means of dealing with that. In relation to education, I will be very quick here. We are looking at how we can really expand opportunities for young people to advance themselves academically. And so we have been in discussions with the University of the Virgin Islands through the CFBC, and we have now arrived at a point where we are ready to sign an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, for 25 persons on an annual basis to get scholarships and to gain entry into the University of the Virgin Islands. We are doing a similar thing with the Monroe University. They have a campus in St. Lucia and in New York, and essentially what they're saying is that if the government were to provide a sum of money for support of students, say $5,000 per student, they would match that funding. And that will, of course, facilitate the students, although they may have to get another $5,000, $10,000 from a bank during the course of their studies. But we are trying to see if we can facilitate as many people as possible who have this desire to pursue higher learning. In the recent past, I'm sure members are aware that we have had some challenges with the maintenance of the physical property of our schools. And this is right throughout the length and breadth of the island in terms of the toilet facilities in particular, because of their regular daily use by quite a number of students in our schools. We have found it a challenge to keep them in tip-top shape. But we have now gotten to the root of the problem, and we are now assembling a maintenance team. We have divided the country, the island of St. Kitts, into 3 zones, and each of those zones will have a maintenance team retained permanently to ensure that these issues do not arise continually in the future. Maybe I can say in closing that we continue to focus on TVET, technical education. We believe it's the way of the future. We believe that the Black History Month and the Black History curriculum, the Black History curriculum is an important addition to the curriculum to awake the consciousness of the students and to facilitate this moving away of our young people from a life of crime and drugs and so forth, because we believe that that is critically important. I'll stay here now. I suspect that questions will come in relation to other aspects of the ministry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the Honorable Nigel Carty. And now we'll hear from our Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Earl Asim-Martin.
Thank you very much, Honorable Marcella Liebert. The ministry in which I represent is the Ministry of Housing, Public Works, Public Utilities, and Energy. I want to start off first with the issue of energy, because energy continues to be a challenge not only for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, but globally. But that does not mean that the government and my own ministry is not taking on the challenge to see how we can look at the issue of energy and address it in a holistic way. We are strongly of the view that renewable energy is the way that the Federation would want to move in. And we would want to move in a matrix, a renewable energy matrix that involves solar energy, wind energy, geothermal energy, waste energy, and if possible, in the area of biofuels. We are moving over the last week or so, we have been moving quite briskly in the area of solar energy. We had the opportunity about 2 weeks ago to sign an arrangement, a joint venture arrangement between the government of the Republic of China on Taiwan and the government of St. Kitts to construct a 1 megawatt solar farm at the airport. We just this morning had the first handing over of that check to the ministry, and we expect that within 2 weeks that we'll be able to start construction. As a matter of fact, next week, Wednesday, we expect to have the groundbreaking ceremony that will really initiate the construction of that 1 megawatt solar farm. We see this as a joint venture between the government and the Republic of China, my own ministry, the Ministry of Tourism that SCASPA falls under, and also the SIDF. We are also discussing with the SCELEC, the St. Kitts Electricity Company, and also with the SIDF as a mechanism that we'll be able to roll out very shortly in terms of looking how we can bring some relief to our customers who are at this moment experiencing difficulties. And we are looking at it as a means of how we can bring renewable energy and a mixture of relief in terms for those customers out there. The SIDF and SCELEC and my own ministry, they have been in continuous discussion over the last 2 weeks, and I expect by the end of this month, we'll be able to roll out a more comprehensive program in terms of how we expect to address the issue of the cost of electricity. We would want, in that whole mix, we would see the whole transformation to some extent of how SCELEC will operate in the future in terms of its own operations, in terms of the mechanization, and the improvement in technology that will redound to the overall efficiency in the operation of SCELEC, and that in itself will redound more to those customers out there in terms of the cost of electricity. So it's a whole combination of factors that we are bringing into place to ensure that we be able to move in that direction that will redound to the customers out there who at this moment have concern. The other challenging area that we are looking at right now is the issue of water. We are, over the last 3 months, also been experiencing a serious drought. And this is a drought that is affecting not only St. Kitts and Nevis, but it's affecting the whole region that we are experiencing a drought. And the ministry is looking at this in a most aggressive way. It was just about 3 weeks ago that we brought a cabinet submission to address some of that problems in terms of the reactivation of 2 wells in the aquifer at the Ponds Needmos area that we feel that will produce another 500,000 gallons of water per day. Sorry, per minute? Per day. 500,000 gallons of water per day. And we're also in discussion with another company by the name of BEAD that will be involved in some deep well drilling, because what the water department has done over the last couple of years is more or less shallow drilling. And we are looking at deep well drilling. This company, BEAD, will assist us in terms of mapping out those areas that we haven't drilled before and coming up with new water. They have indicated to us that once all things being equal, they might be able to produce at least 1.5 million gallons of water per day with that arrangement. Those discussions are ongoing. We have signed a contract, and we are looking in terms of how we can move in a holistic way in addressing the issue of the water shortage. And I want to take the opportunity here to in a way, to apologize to our customers out there, because they're experiencing some difficulty sometimes in low pressure and also sometimes in no water in some instances. So I want to take this opportunity to apologize to some of our to those customers out there. But on the other hand, I want to say that we have to, in all areas, look in terms of how we conserve water. Because, yes, we have to look in terms of our water usage, how we use it, what we are doing. Sometimes we go to wash our dishes and the pipe run for all the time till we have completed the washing of our dishes. And all these kind of things that we have to look at in terms of how we begin to address the issue of conservation. Because the issue of water is not infinite. It is not there forever. And it's a matter that we have to address in collaboration, in partnership with the water department and with our customers out there that we would want to address that particular issue. And that not only applies to the issue of water, it also applies in the area of energy also. How we begin to address how we use the issue, how we address the issue of energy, and the whole aspect of conservation of energy. The other area that we have been working on over the last couple of months is the area of resurfacing of our roads island-wide. We have done quite a lot of work in that area over the last couple of months, and we expect to continue in that particular area. So there are some areas that might feel like they have left out, but I want to say to you that we haven't left out any area. When resources becomes available, we'll be addressed in all those areas that have problems in terms of the resurfacing of roads and the construction of new roads, because we also want to look at the construction of roads in communities that basically don't have any roads, in areas that the land sales agency would have distributed land. We want to look at in terms of the installation of the infrastructure, maybe water, electricity, and roads in those areas, because we want to do all these things so we can improve the quality of life for all of our citizens. So those are, finally, I want to look at our major project within our ministry as regards to roads, and that is the Southeast Peninsula Rehabilitation. We are taking on a major project there in terms of the rehabilitation of the Southeast Peninsula. And we have been addressing it in various phases. Late last year, we looked at the Cockershell Road on the Southeast Peninsula that we have started some work that needs to continue. We have just recently started some work on the roundabout that will address some of the drainage problems. The roundabout at Marriott that will address some of the drainage problems that we have experienced there in the past. And then very shortly, we expect to start some work within the Timothy Hill region, where we know that for most of us it's a very dangerous area, and we would definitely be starting some work there early probably early next month. That involves the whole construction of a tunnel that will assist vehicular traffic and remove a lot of the fear in people's mind once they are traveling in that area. And then we'll look at the whole reconstruction, the construction of a roundabout at the Central Bank, the Kim Collins Highway, in terms of addressing the vehicular flow in that particular area. We understand the difficulties that some of our citizens do experience once traveling in that area, especially in between the hours of 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and probably on Friday afternoons, a very difficult area in which you have to travel, and we're looking in terms of addressing that very shortly also. There's also the issue of the drainage on the Pond Road, the Frigate Bay area, and that too will also be addressed as part of the whole rehabilitation of the Southeast Peninsula Road. So quite a lot of activity we expect would have started and will continue in the area of roads in St. Kitts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the Honourable Earl Martin. We now move on to the Honourable Richard Skerrit.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Deputy Prime Minister, colleagues, members of the local press, listeners and viewers. Good morning. What a pleasure it is to be here. Last week, Friday, a friend of mine called me from Jamaica. He said that he was listening to a radio talk show, a breakfast show, and that there were two members of parliament from the St. Kitts and Nevis National Assembly bashing our country and bashing the Prime Minister and the government that I have the privilege to be a part of. And he wondered whether I was listening. So I said, I don't normally listen to Jamaica radio, but if you send me the link, I will listen. So I'm almost sad to tell you that I listened and heard it myself. They predicted that there will be civil unrest. They predicted that I assume it's some of my colleagues here, because I know it ain't me, will be walking away from this government shortly. And I almost didn't recognize the country that they were speaking about. My understanding is that this kind of interview has been taking place across the region in a concerted, deliberate, strategic attack on the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis, in an unfortunate and what I call a sad attempt to paint a picture of a country that somehow is in distress, a country that is headed for major instability and unrest. I want to take this opportunity, colleagues, members of the media, and viewers and listeners, to reassure the people of St. Kitts and Nevis that regardless of these attempts to destabilize the country, and these attempts to paint as nasty a picture as possible of St. Kitts and Nevis, that nothing could be further from the truth. I've had the privilege for the last 4 weeks to have added to my responsibility the portfolio of the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Commerce, and Consumer Affairs. And that, of course, is added to the Ministry of Tourism and International Transport. I therefore have the honor and privilege to sit where you could possibly describe as the epicenter of economic awareness. And let me reassure the people of St. Kitts and Nevis that the investment climate has never been stronger, that real investment activity has never been more active. There are at least 10 major projects in the resort and residential tourism business and education tourism business that I can point to. Members of the media can do the research and find them out. But there are at least 10 projects that will result, already resulting, and will result over the course of this year in the area of $1 billion EC dollars worth of investment in this country. That would not be happening if this was a country where investors were afraid to do business. That would not be happening if this was a country where the people were taken to the streets and being upset that somehow government is non-functional. I also have had the privilege, as the minister responsible for industry, to engage those areas where it is perceived that business future is more vulnerable in the area of the manufacturing sector. One day after being appointed the responsibility, I met with the chairman of the manufacturing division of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce and a former president of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. And we discussed those areas of intervention that were necessary. Immediately, we began work, and I can say that one company that had been significantly struggling, and in fact, where layoffs had taken place over the last year, and over 100 employees had lost their jobs, that we are working actively, feverishly, and I hasten to say, successfully, to arrest the decline in the fortunes of that company. I have engaged their major client in Germany. I have engaged their major creditors. And in what will be, I believe, a historic and unprecedented partnership between the public and private sector, this company is now facing an optimistic outlook with the possibility of a turnaround and even beginning to hire additional employees in the coming months. There's another company which has been doing better, but which had been somehow stifled in its growth plans because somehow its need for additional space had not been made clear to this cabinet and certainly had not been made clear to this minister. I'm happy to say that in a very rapid and productive cabinet submission placed before cabinet last week, Monday, cabinet agreed to make available the old supply warehouse, what we call the supply office, 12,500 square feet of it, available to this particular company so that it can proceed with its expansion plans. The expansion plans which will be rolled out to the media in coming weeks after we sign another historic partnership development agreement with this manufacturer, will result over the coming 5 years or so of up to an additional 500 employees being needed. The point that I want to make to this country at this point is that at this crucial time, I should say, is that whatever the politics is, whatever people's political opinions, however much they hate, however much they dislike, and however much they may feel that it is their time, it is always time for the country to move forward. And the country will only move forward if business grows, if there are more opportunities for businesses of all type, if there are more opportunities for people to find work and for people to get empowered. And that is what this government is seeking to do. And every single day that I serve this country as a minister, that is what I seek to do, regardless of what others might be telling Jamaican audiences on the radio, or St. Lucian or Antiguan or Trinidadian audiences. This is about St. Kitts and Nevis, where all is welcome and where there is opportunity for all. And people who live here know better. People who work here know better. People who live here know that the ministries that I represent and the ministries that all of us represent here and the government that is led by Dr. Denzil Douglas is a government that works hard. A government that continues to look out for empowerment of its people. And I am confident that the work we are doing will continue to bring good dividends. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Richard Skerrit. It's now left to me to put in my little 4 minutes, and I want to do so very quickly by touching very briefly on about 5 projects across my ministries, and I want to begin with the New Horizon Rehabilitation Center that was recently opened over at Harris's. That center will focus on rehabilitation of our young people rather than on punishment. And that is why we are happy that the center is being opened so that we can take our juveniles and our young people out of the prison and put them in a center where we can have them successfully re-enter their families and their communities. And that is why the programs there would include not only academics, but counseling, family visits, IT, sports, and of course soft skills, among others, to have them successfully re-enter their families and the communities. Now the center, most of the staff is already in place, and staff training has already begun, but the main training will take place between the 2nd and I think the 15th of April, where overseas consultants, UE Inc., will be coming in to train the staff. As you know, because of the sensitive nature of the center, they would have to be specifically trained in these areas to do with rehabilitation. Also, there's an operational manual that they would have to know how to operate over in the center. All of this would be taught as part of the training of the staff over there. And I want to really commend and congratulate Ms. Adele Williams, who is the director, and Mrs. Naima Hazel Menon, who is the deputy director of the New Horizon Rehabilitation Center. You'd also note that this center is operating legislatively under the Juvenile Act, which was Cap 39, now Cap 4.15 of our laws. And Section 18 specifically gives the magistrate court the authority to remand or commit a juvenile who offends the law to a juvenile rehabilitation center. And also, I think it is Section 40 which says that the GG, the Governor General, may from time to time, for the purpose of this act, designate any place to be a juvenile center, and without prejudice to the foregoing provision of the premises known as Harris's home are hereby designated a juvenile rehabilitation center. So in the act, the actual Harris's home is mentioned and designated as a juvenile rehabilitation center, and even though the Governor General may from time to time, for the purpose of the act, designate any place to be a juvenile center. And so there is legislative support for the operation of the center. There are also some regulations which are already drafted and which are just being finalized. We are hoping, therefore, that the center would go into operations where we can actually have some of the persons there, I would say, by about early May. The next project I would move on to quickly would be hemodialysis unit up at the JNF hospital. This, as you know, is to address the problem of kidney failure, which comes out of diabetes and hypertension. This center, we're hoping to have this open about the middle of May. We already have the nephrologist here. The nephrologist is already at JNF. We have already have the 2 hemodialysis nurses. They are here. They have already conducted training of 30 local nurses in the area of hemodialysis. The equipment and the supplies are here. And so we're hoping that with all the little in-house matters just left to be addressed, that this center will be opened in mid-May. The next project has to do with the opening of the Old Road Health Center, the new Old Road Health Center. I'm sure Minister Philip will be glad to hear this. That the date is set already for the opening for the 18th of April. Social Security, we want to commend Social Security for funding the furniture and the equipment and the fencing of that new Old Road Health Center. It's done under the aegis of the Basic Needs Trust Fund with funds from the Caribbean Development Bank. We want to also compliment the contractor, Mr. Clinton Sillidy, a resident of Old Road. He did an excellent job in building the new center. Of course, we just want to provide for better and more comfortable health for the persons in the Old Road area and in the surrounding areas. I move on to WISE, which is Women in Small Enterprises, a project that we rolled out on International Women's Day, where 20 women, those women who sell trays and small shops and small salons, it's a stimulus to them to try to help them in their businesses. And this week, we're rolling out to another 40 or so women, and we expect next week to roll out to even more. This is a program, as I said, to help to stimulate women at the lowest end, self-employed women at the lowest end, trays and small shops and small salons, and also to give them some help in terms of advice as to how they could better manage their businesses. And finally, I want us to look at what is happening now with respect to the civil registry. This is a project, the modernization of the civil registry. It's a project that is funded by the Organization of American States, and we want to thank our resident representative, Mr. Starrett Green, for all of his assistance. This is being done between the Ministry of Health and the IT department. The system will be designed to securely and efficiently digitize the processes of the civil registry that will allow for electronic storage and retrieval of births, deaths, marriage, and adoption information in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Currently, as we speak, the technical people from overseas are here training our local people with respect to that project. It's going on as we speak. And so I'll just end here with quick mention of 5 projects across the ministry. Thank you so very much for listening, and we are now open to questions from members of the press.